Tuesday, 6 p.m. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Martha Casabon. Here. Mr. Lauren. Here. Mr. Richardson.
Here.
Mr. Richard. Mr. Willie.
Here.
Mr. Davis.
Here.
Mr. Fitzmaurice.
Here.
Mr. Dougherty. Mr. Drum.
Here.
And Mr. Randolph.
Here.
We have a quorum. Call to order. Please disconnect all phones and pages. If you don't like the decision of this commission, you can always use the appeal cards up front. And if you'd like to speak on any case, there's also speaker cards. As far as public speaking goes, each side will have 10 minutes and then 5 minutes for rebuttal. After you're finished with your case, if you want to continue to talk about it, of course, please exit the building since it gets pretty loud out in the hallway. Please stand for the invocation by Commissioner Randolph and the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Gracious Father, once again we come to you to say thank you for all the blessings you bestowed in our lives. Lord, we thank you for your grace and mercy that have been ever present with all of us throughout this day. We ask that you continue to be with us, our families and our friends, our communities. Lord, we ask a special blessing also upon all of our commissioners and those that's in the audience, and Heavenly Father, those that we represent, and let us make decisions that's in the best interest of all. In all these blessings we ask in your holy name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have the commissioners had time to review the minutes from the last month? And if so, we'll take an order to make a motion to approve. Commissioner Randolph.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Lauren.
I'll second that.
With a second by Commissioner Lauren. Any more discussion? If not, please vote.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Staff, is there any postponing of cases?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Put the mic on.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Case number 2 on the agenda, 2018-1079 ZC. And we have a representative here for Mr. and Mrs. Equestapes.
And this is postponed?
Yes.
Oh. Is that the only case?
No, the next one is number 3, 2018-1091. We had to re-advertise this case.
Okay, why don't we name all the postponements first, and then we'll go through each one.
And number 11, 2018-1135. We are still trying to find who the property owners are, so we would like to request a table until the November meeting.
Okay. Is that all?
That's it?
Okay, I'll read each case individually. First of all, I'd like to make a motion to approve. We bring up the postponements first. Can I have a second on that? Second. I have a motion to approve and a second. Please vote for the postponements.
Motion carried.
Okay. Let's go to case number 2, 2018-1079 ZC. The existing zoning is A3 Suburban District, Highway Commercial 3. Proposed zoning is Highway Commercial 3. Parcel located on the southeast corner of I-12 and LA Highway 434 in Ward 7, District 7, 31.34 acres. The petitioner and owner is David and Mary Equestapes, and this Council District 7. Staff?
Yes, as I said, the representative is here and would like to request to postpone until the November meeting. As many of you know, we had a good community meeting in August. However, if I'm not mistaken, the representative can confirm that he is still working with the neighborhood and would like to request to postpone until November meeting.
Is the representative here?
Yes, Rick Richardson for Mr. and Mrs. Christopher, and that is correct. We are working on it. I don't have any problems with the additions, and I'll just have to come up with the language.
So you're asking for a postponement to the November?
That's correct.
Okay.
We got your name, please, so Rick Richardson.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to deny this postponement? Okay, that being said, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Casabon,
Yes, I'll make a motion to postpone.
postponement to
November.
November. Thank you. Commissioner Fitzmaurice,
A second.
I have a second, to postpone to November. Please vote. Fitzmaurice.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Postponement, case number 3, 2018-1091 ZC text change. An ordinance to amend Chapter 130 of the St. Tammany Parish Unified Development Code to add the brewery or distillery or tours, specifically Section 130-5 definitions and Sections 130-1075 I-2 Industrial District Administrative Permits, 130-1108 I-3 Heavy Industrial District Administrative Permits, 130-1130 I-4 Heavy Industrial Administrative Permits, and 130-2213 Minimum Standards. And staff, you said you just want to postpone it to get some of the text correct?
Yes, we had to re-advertise the case, and it will be on the agenda for the October meeting.
For October. Is there anyone here that would like to deny this or not opposed to this? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Casabon.
Motion to postpone.
Motion to postpone by Commissioner Casabon. Commissioner Randolph.
Second?
A second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Let's go up to case number 10, 2018-1134 ZC, text change. This is the ordinance amending the St. Tammany Parish Unified Development Code, Section 13055, notice requirements to include additional abutter notice provisions. Staff?
Mr. Chairman, it's 11:35 that we're requesting to postpone.
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
next one.
I just read the wrong one, sorry. 2018-1135 ZC, existing zonings, the Highway Commercial 2, proposed zoning A4, acreage is 5.4, is by council motion, and the owner is multiple owners, parcel located on the north side of Ben Thomas Road, west of US 1 Highway 11, District 14, Ward 9.
Yes, we still haven't identified all the property owners, so we would like to request to postpone until the November meeting.
I don't think anybody's in objection of that, since we don't know who owns the property. So with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Randolph.
Motion to postpone until November meeting.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Richardson. Second. Postponed by Commissioner Randolph, second by Commissioner Richardson. Please vote.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Case number, I think that's all the postponements.
Correct.
Yeah, that's all the postponements. I'd like to next, to try to speed this thing up since we have a lot of cases, is to go ahead and bring up the text changes next. As you can see, we have case number 1 as a text change, case number 10 is a text change, and case number 19 is a text change. I'd like to make a motion to move those up, if I can get a second. 12? Oh, sorry, 12 as well. Yeah, 12 and 19. So we have, I'd like to move up cases 1, case 10, case 12, and case 19. Can you get a second on that? Please vote. This is just to move up the text changes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Okay. Case 1, 2018-1075 ZZ text change. An ordinance to amend the St. Tammany Parish Unified Development Code, Section 130-2163, minimum off-street loading requirements to amend the required number of parking spaces for institutional and commercial medical uses, clinics, and medical office buildings. Staff?
This text change was in front of you last month, and we were suggesting to make a change to the required number of parking spaces for institutional, commercial, medical uses, clinic, and medical offices to go to 5 spaces per 1,000 square foot of building. Some of you had requested to get some more information as to where we were getting the information, and I attached a little document as to, to compare different cities and give you an idea of the formula that they use. And as you can see, many have used the 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet. And this is what we based our recommendation on, and we would like to recommend approval.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak for this amendment change? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak against this amendment change?
Carla Hernandez. I want to support the commission members who questioned the need for reducing the parking requirements for these 2 categories last time. You know, it's interesting that if you compare, or if you look at where these cities are and the population associated with these cities, generally, these are large cities and have public transportation transit systems, and the transit systems do provide the opportunity to reduce parking because transit makes up some difference in this, and the same thing happens in one of the studies that I'm very familiar with is the IT parking rates. Institute of Transportation Engineers, that also has, and depending on which category it uses, it can have anywhere from 20 to 120 cities that it looks at and averages out what should be given. And it's interesting, just for your information, comparing, and I'm looking only at the ITE rates, and again, these are primarily metropolitan cities that have large populations with very good transit systems. And if you look at what the 3rd edition, and this was the 4th edition that you're looking at right now, the 3.45 under offices for 1,000 square foot, it's 3.44 was the 3rd edition 10 years before, and 3.45 was the 4th edition. There is a 5th edition which isn't yet to be published yet. The medical office was 4.3 in the 3rd edition and 4.27 in the 4th edition. So I mean, they're very close. And I guess the real question is there a need to reduce the parking? And I would argue that there is no need to reduce the parking, especially given the fact that we do not have in place in St. Tammany Parish a transit system that could provide the opportunity for patrons utilizing offices and medical offices to utilize and therefore not need the parking spaces. So, and I think that generally that's true with virtually all of the other cities that were given in comparison to this. And so I would hope that the commission members would again question the need for reduction in here, given the fact that St. Tammany Parish does not currently have in place a extensive public transit system to offset the need for additional parking spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who want to speak against this? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission.
I'd like to make a
you have a
comment
comment?
if
No, sorry.
possible.
Staff?
Many times we have someone who applies for a building permit to build a medical office building or clinic. And at the time of construction, we do not have the number of employees. Also, this is something that we cannot necessarily control. You may have one doctor, you may have two doctors, you may have a doctor who has multiple employees. They may start with one employee and add more employees. So it's very difficult to have an exact count of the number of doctors on duty and the number of employees on duty. And by doing this average, then it's easier to determine and have a formula to determine an accurate number of parking spaces.
You know, and actually looking at the information you provided us, I see that Covington and Slidell both have 5 parking spaces per. Okay. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Yeah, I'm pleased with the staff's research, and I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Commissioner Willie?
Helen, this reduction in parking, does that also take in account, Mr. Hernandez made a good point about the public transit, you know, we're short on that, but also on high-rise parking. Does that take in account in this parish? We don't have a whole lot of that either. Is that reduction, does that justify that too?
How it's, I'm not sure if I understand
You know,
the
like I
question.
say, a lot of these places are abutting high-rise parking in some other cities and stuff, and we don't have a whole lot here. You know, we basically on ground parking.
Yes, but if you're looking at the list that we provided, it's not necessarily, you know, places that are gonna have high-rise parking lot.
Well, that's what I was saying, you know, does that, reducing the number of parking places, does that justify, because we don't have high-rise parking?
No, it's not related,
Okay,
no.
okay, thank you.
I think in order to have an impact, have to be high-rise public parking. And most of these places aren't gonna have high-rise public parking. They'll have perhaps a hospital, you know, in St. Tammany, Chevron is the example, where they'll have private parking, high-rise, which is, it's the same number of spaces.
Okay.
Whether it's surface or multi-level, that's usually a factor of the value of the land, of the cost of the land, where it becomes more expensive to utilize surface parking than it does high-rise construction.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Casabon.
Yes, I think the staff has done the research, and I'll second that motion.
Have a second by Commissioner Casabon, and also have a motion to approve by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Any further questions, comments? If not, please vote.
Motion carried.
Thank you. The next text change is case number 10, 2018-1134 ZC, an ordinance amending the St. Tammany Parish Unified Development Code, Section 13055, notice requirements to include an additional buffer notice provisions. Staff?
I think we defer to Councilman Toledano. as,
Okay, Councilman
he
Toledano.
proposed the ordinance.
Mr. Davis, thank you very much. For your record, I'm Riker Toledano. I'm one of your parish councilmen here in St. Tammany Parish representing District 5. And it's a pleasure to appear on this side of the system as opposed to on that side, you know. Although I have my back now, it's a different view and one that I had many occasions to do before. But I do appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I'm here personally because this is a matter of great concern of myself, but of several of your councilmen too. And it comes before you in this form. In the days before I got this other day job as one of your parish councilmen, I used to do a little work that Mr. Shane did and Mr. Crane and several of us. And I did it on both sides. I did it from the standpoint of the proponent of the zoning change and those people who on occasion are opposite to it. And often in these cases, this is what I was met with. Gee whiz, we didn't know about this to the last second. the staff does a wonderful job of putting the signs out. But here's the reality, because I've seen it myself. I've actually gotten in my car and people said, well, wait a second, I didn't see a sign out there. I would get in my car, I would drive out there. Sometimes the signs would be missing. So people, the public, these people, like all of us who care about what happens in this community, sometimes honestly did not get notice. Now, you say, how could that possibly happen? Because it's not a failing of Mr. Fontenot and Helen's good work. It's a failing of the system in today's world. Sometimes the signs are taken down, that's the reality. Sometimes they're blown down, they're rained down, they're put in a place where people don't notice them. And so in fairness, a lot of times they just don't get noticed. So while I was knocking on those thousands of doors, running, a question that often came up is, can you do something about the notice requirement? And I made a little note in my notebook, and I started doing some research once I got elected, because if I didn't get elected, I figured this maybe would not be my role, so I wouldn't be that presumptuous. Lo and behold, I did, and I'm very glad to have been elected. So I started out in Plano, Texas, because I knew something about the Plano zoning laws and the fact that they had sort of redeveloped their codes and was considered quite a fine model. And I moved through that in other jurisdictions, Jefferson Parish, Orleans, various other places in Louisiana. And what I discovered was a very well-written abutment ordinance. I then went to Mr. Hand, and in turn, Carlin, who I often refer to as Mr. Hand's daughter, but it's not his daughter, it's his assistant, and that's a joke between all of us. But lo and behold, at one time I did think that. But anyway, so I got with Terry, and we looked at these ordinances, and they set about the task of drafting it. And I submit to you, and I implore you, and I request that you consider this favorably. And basically what that ordinance does, and you, of course, have a copy before you, is that in addition to the notice requirements, i.e. posting, it requires specific notice within a radius. And through not much effort on my part, but through the effort of Carlin and Mr. Hand, in my view, and as a lawyer who did some of this work, I think they're very well drawn. And what it does is it will provide notice within an area, 300 feet. And what that happens as a practical matter, if my neighbor Sydney gets notice of it, I might live 400 feet away. But you know what? The word's going to spread in the community. What does that do for you? What does it do for us as parish councilmen? It relieves us of the burden, sometimes actually guilt, because very often these people are very sincere in their presentation. Well, you know, they didn't get notice. I've seen cases postponed at our level, and I'm sure at your level. And then that notice requirement is written in this form. There's some other formalities with regard to that. For instance, in some cases it requires a door hanger. What would that entail? We have building inspectors in this community, in this parish. We have plenty enough people, bad English, plenty enough people to get out, and if they have to put a few notes, door hangers, they can do that. So you say to yourself, well, wait a second, what happens if, in fact, Mr. Willie doesn't get that written notice? And the answer is, we have written into this abutment ordinance a savings clause, and without belaboring it for purposes of your record and the benefit of the interested public, a savings clause would say that nobody can overturn a case because he or she did not get notice, whether it's me, whether it's Mr. Davids, Mr. Fitzmaurice, Mr. Richardson, or any of us. I got to tell you, in today's world, those of us who are in government, from my perspective and from your perspective, you hear this magical word, transparency. Well, here's what I believe transparency translates to this. I believe we, like many other jurisdictions, and by the way, more and more jurisdictions are going to this type of ordinance on a regular basis because it does provide transparency. It assures everybody that they have due notice and a fair playing field. I cannot think of any reason why something like this is not good for St. Tammany Parish. It certainly fits the philosophy that we abide ourselves by here in this community. You know, does it require a little bit of extra work? Well, you know what? It might require a little bit of extra work. Sometimes people in my office come to me and say, well, I think I've got this right. And I'd say, well, you know what? Go back, take another look at it. I want you to look at this. Bring me back something else. It might take a little extra work, but at the end of the day, it will give these good ladies and gentlemen in this audience and the hundreds and thousands that have come before them and have become before us in our forum as your council, it will give them an opportunity to know they have had fair notice. It gives you, it gives me that same opportunity. I would urge you to favorably consider this. Mr. Hannon Carlin, I think, did a wonderful job of crafting it. And so that this is clear too, although I know each of you read these things, but for the record again, the mailing notices are at the applicant's expense. So if Mr. Shane has a zoning case, his client's got to pay the freight. So we're not, in my view, imposing an extra expense on the parish. That's, Mr. Davis, and I thank you very much for your time. That's generally why I'm here. I can tell you that a lot of us feel strongly about this. A lot of people in your community have been very appreciative that we've gotten it to this far. And I would hope that you would consider it favorably. And then at the next stage of my brothers and sisters at the council, we will look at it too. Thank you very much. And we'll be happy to entertain any questions that you have.
Thank you. Staff, any additional comments?
Yes. I just want to make it very clear that conceptually, we agree with the councilman. We have made a commitment a number of years ago, Ms. Brister and myself at a council meeting when similar questions came up. We made a commitment that once we had the ability to identify those property owners accurately and completely, we want to do this. And if there's extra costs, we would look at a change in fee schedule and pass that on to the developer. So we agree with the intent of the proposal. But logistically, we see a number of difficulties and concerns about equal notice being available. Our present notification process is in accordance with state law. We advertise in the Journal of Record, which is the Farmer. So we do that 3 times over a 4-week period, 3 to 4 week period. We also post the property. State law requires that you put a 1 square foot sign on the property. We put something in excess of 5 square feet. Again, if we had the ability to readily identify, easily identify property owners within 300 feet, we would be doing this. The database that is most likely to be used, and I believe it's in Mr. Toledano's ordinance, would be the assessor's database. This is no reflection on the assessor. The job that they're doing in creating that database is a monumental job. They have identified over 80,000 parcels and have the ownership records of 80,000 parcels. But they have identified less than half of the land mass in St. Tammany Parish with 80,000 parcels. So in theory, some subdivisions, some locations, we could do this job easily, quickly. It'd take a matter of seconds to access the information. The other areas, it would require an abstract to identify it. The property owners, let's see. I think that, should this become law, the development community may be able to adapt to it. Additional development costs, working into their pro formas, hire abstractors, do the work. Perhaps just start focusing on areas where we have the information readily available. The biggest problem, the biggest burden I see is the small landowner, the mobile home overlay. Those people, we're going to ask those people to go to the assessor's office in areas that may not just be documented, identify the property owners within 300 feet, and then track the system that the councilman has put in place or is proposing. Just as an exercise, I looked at the cases that you're looking at tonight. We have 11 zoning cases. 3 of those are in very close proximity, probably have the same adjacent property owners. Those 3 sites, we could do virtually a full notification using this method. Other than that, you have 3 other cases that you could get full notification. You have 3 cases that only part of the local residents would have notification utilizing the assessor's database, not doing an abstract. And you have 2 cases where nobody would get notice. It doesn't even identify the property being requested. So those are our concerns. They're purely logistical concerns. We are committed when the assessor has completed their database and the information is readily available, where we can create a 300-foot buffer, hit the button, we have a list of 4 property owners or 400 property owners. Then we need to start sending out these letters of notification. Prior to, Councilman and I have been talking about this for probably a year. Prior to him actually introducing this ordinance, Ms. Brister did tell us to start looking at a process by which we can notify the adjacent property owners when we post a sign. And we have on order door hangers, thanks to the suggestion of the councilman, where we will be going out, and when we post a sign, we'll walk to the next door property and hang this on the door. Try and get more information out. The staff is already out there. There's not the extra process of having to go out again. And so we appreciate the intent of the councilman. We agree with what he is trying to do, but we don't think that it can be efficiently done at this time. And I just wanted to express our concerns on it, on the proposal.
Mr. Davis, if you will. Yes. And I listened carefully to what Sidney says, and he's accurate in saying that we've been talking about it actually for over a year. And the first thing I would say respectfully is it's about time. And by saying that, it's not about time as a relationship to anything that this group is dilatory in. But as we sit here today, I've been checking with the assessor's office along the way before I brought it to this point. South of I-12, it's mostly complete. I got that from the assessor's office 2 days ago, maybe yesterday, actually. A lot of the other areas of Beta, Pearl River, Madisonville, mostly done. A lot of Folsom done. He's correct that not all is done, but in the example that Sidney gave you, he called off 11. 6 were ready to go today, 2 not quite, and then 2 completed, not ready. And here's what I suggest. First I'm going to repeat myself with your permission. It's time to do this. There are too many people in this parish who go to me, go to you, and say, I didn't know. We have written this ordinance to do exactly what Sidney said. If you don't have the data, you can put the door hanger. And that requires a little shoe leather from somebody. And we've got enough inspectors and other people in this parish that doggone they can put the notice there. It will eliminate a problem. This public, I dare say, if I asked them to raise their hands, 90+% of them would say, great idea, because they deserve to know. And it's not anybody, contrary to what some people think, intentionally from the standpoint of government disguised in an effort to rezone, but it's a practical, real situation. They blow down, they rain down, and sometimes people take them down, and that's reality. So the burden, the cost, is on the applicant. I don't feel guilty about that. I've represented these people both sides. If my client is going to make a zoning change, and frankly, if he can afford to pay me, at that time. I can't do any of that work now. He can afford to waste a few stamps, and maybe he might have to do a little abstracting work. But you know what? It's worth it, because it is what government is about today, and certainly St. Tammany Parish practices, but it's a good, positive form of transparency. And it gets better every day. I met with Mr. Fitzmaurice a long time ago. He came to me. He asked me for some help in getting some funding. Thanks to Ms. Brister helping the assessor and pulling money together, because as Sydney mentioned, she's fully in favor of this. We got some money going to the assessor's office. That got them started. They're working hard. They're not finished today. But you know what? If they're not finished, they might have to put some door hangers. But it's worth it. It does no harm to anybody. I think it does a tremendous service to this community. And I would hope that you would start that ball rolling to us, and it'll be incumbent upon me to continue to advocate it to the council, although I know for certain that everyone that I've spoken to fully favors this. And I believe these ladies and gentlemen fully favor it. And some of you all, like Bernie Willies, seems like he's been there as long as I've been here, and some of you others, Martha, it's no reflection on any of our ages, they know of what I speak about this, and it will eliminate a problem. And this is not something that Riker Toledano came up with as an idea coming out of the sky. It is done throughout this country because it's good government and it's transparency, and I need your help in getting it down the road. And I thank you very much for your time, Mr. Davis.
All right, thank you. Cindy, any rebuttal or?
I just have the concerns that I expressed, that if we had full coverage, I'd be on board with it. But, you know, and I agree that the larger developers can absorb the cost. And I have no issue with them having to do it. I just see other people having to do it who don't have the expertise, don't have the wherewithal to do it. And by Parish doing it when we have the ability to do it, we can rest assured it's being done properly. As for the staffing to take inspectors and have them do these deliveries, speaking on the building inspectors today, the standard for building inspections is 10 or 12, something of that range on in the national standard of how many inspections they should do a day, and our guys are doubling whatever the national standard is. So I don't know that we have the people to hang the door hangers and you know, spend the time and energy and fuel and vehicle time to go out and chase, you know, for the door hangers. That's why we're proposing to do it when we're in our normal operations, being able to hang on some of the doors. That's just our perspective, and the wishes of the commission, the council is the direction we'll go.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak for or against this? Yes, sir. Your name and address, please.
Bill McHugh with the St. Tammany Farmer, 320 North New Hampshire Street. My question is, what do you do with a door hanger on undeveloped land?
Mailbox, post it on the mailbox,
Yeah.
not in the mailbox.
Yeah.
Can't do that. Federal law.
No, I'm sorry, in the case that he's speaking of.
Yeah.
Remember of what I said before. This system is by definition imperfect. There is no perfect system for this. There could be cases, such as what Bill pointed out, where they might not, if you don't get them by the abstract, remember, they're not on Mr. Fitzmaurice's list already, of which a tremendous amount are. South of I-12, virtually complete. Folsom, Beta, all virtually complete. So you might have a case where, you know what, we don't have a GIS or GRI, I forget the terminology from their mapping, and then the abstractor might have to go figure it out. But if he doesn't, or she doesn't, it's not a flaw, it's not fatal to the passage or disallowance of the zoning case. There's a savings clause that says, it's okay, you still go forward. It doesn't retard the progress, it doesn't do anything negative, it doesn't make your vote non-effective or our vote non-effective. There are some times in the reality of life that a person might live in North Dakota and have an obscure address and some way couldn't find who the owner is. That's okay. We've got that allowed. And virtually every one of the ordinances that we researched, myself and Mr. Hand, they have that savings clause. But at the end of the day, is it better? I suggest to you respectfully, it's 100 times better. It does no harm. It's a positive. It's what I consider good government. It's a positive step. It's meeting a problem halfway. It's saying, before I hear another person say, Lord in heaven, I did not get notice, I've met the problem, and I made my best effort. And for those reasons, I would ask you again to look favorably upon a recommendation that we can then handle at our next level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Casabon.
Riker, you can stay up there.
Yes, ma'am.
I've been on this commission a long time, and there has been a problem with notification that we dealt with years ago with people not being notified. I'd like to state for the public's viewpoint that as a commission, when we find that people have not been notified, or they come up here and tell us that we didn't have notification, this is the last minute, and we would have the place packed and stuff, as a commission, we felt it was our responsibility to postpone it to proper notification. We have in place where we have the community meetings, where more information can be gathered on, whatever topic, if it's really controversial or people just need to know more information on it. I don't feel like there's been a problem with transparency. I could say that maybe a long time ago, but like I said, as we've gotten the larger signs, it's been a long time since somebody, I know of one case tonight. You'd like to raise your hand on the one case on Rural Road. So how were y'all notified? Did y'all see the sign? So this many people are here on one case that they were notified from that sign. The second opinion of mine is that they would need a full-time staff. When you're talking about going out, just doing the sign, and if it's possible, I like the idea of the door hanger. That if it's, like you said, within their timeline of putting out the signs, and some type of notification or attach it to the mailboxes or whatever. That I like, but I feel like the parish is as looking for ways to save money. I just feel like they would need a full-time staff more than they have now to be able to implement all of this. I'm not saying that in the future, when we have more data that is readily available at the touch of a hand, that they could get this done. We set up text messages or whatever that people can be notified of such things, or maybe a website that people can look daily on. As we rest our soul, we can look up the funeral homes now. We look every day, to see if somebody we know. Well, maybe something like that could be implemented, in which you could just check, the surrounding properties around you to see, what is being rezoned and so on. But I just feel like we've come a long way since I've been on this commission, that we have ways of people. Maybe you see it at the council level, but I don't see it, and maybe my fellow commissioners disagree with me, but it's been a long time since someone's come up and said, I didn't see the notice, we just found out about it. And if that happens, that's when we question staff. When was it? Did it get blown over? And if it's a lot of questions about it, we table it until more information
Yeah.
is done. So that's how I feel about it.
And I understand of what you speak, Martha, but this is what I would say in response. Again, I remind us that this, right now, in St.
Let's let the rest of the
Oh, I'm
commission,
sorry, I
I've heard,
thought-
that's okay.
You
I
asked
just
me to
had
step
the-
up.
I
Yeah.
just had the question of if you, how many people at the council level come to you at that council meeting and say, we went through this whole process and you weren't notified.
I've had some, but do I count them? Absolutely
No,
not.
you know, it's just, I think it's a lot of time and expense that the parish doesn't have right now. And that, you know, we wanted to implement one or two of these things, but I think this is overreaching for right now, for this time.
Well, and just, again, just let me again remind everybody, just so, we have the whole south side of
I know,
I-24.
you've explained
Okay.
that. It's the
So-
commercial, I'll turn it over to,
So the door hangers
Commission.
are in this ordinance.
Right.
They're in the ordinance.
Thank you. Commissioner Willie?
Yeah, Riker, you can always stay up too.
Yeah.
Yes, I do like the idea of the door hangers. And I know there's gonna be cases where the doors ain't close enough to the area, you know, but still. But another thing I'd like to mention, and Martha touched on, is, you know, we got a website, you know, that carries a lot of information, but maybe we can take advantage of social media as well. I mean, everybody gets their news off of social media these days, you know? My kids get it, I don't get it, my kids get it, and then
Yeah.
they tell me, you know?
I'm
So,
like you, actually.
I like the idea. I think there needs to be more improvements, you know, to the system we have. It's, like Martha said again, it's been improved along the way, but maybe not fast enough. And so I'm gonna move on this motion just to get the ball rolling and see, if, you know, we can get some more improvements along the way, and this ordinance could be amended or whatever along the way. So
Gotcha.
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Willie. Commissioner Drum?
Commissioner, I was reading this right here, and that you're requiring the individual who is trying to rezone their property to provide a notarized list of who they sent the information or the paper to. Notarized is a little bit, to me, far-fetched, okay? And then you also have down here, it says, it shall be the duty of the abutting property owners to ensure that the official records of the assessors are up to date. The property owner shouldn't be doing that. That's what the assessor is supposed to be doing, okay? So if I want to make sure that the property on my house is correct, I got to go into their office. And that's why they send out a notice every year. These are your taxes, and at that time, you can complain.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm not happy with this. Too many notarizing by the public. They're putting a lot of burden on those individuals where we already have a system that's been working, except occasionally something might go askew. But I can't go with this.
Yeah, and by notarized, we just want, the way it's written, and it is somewhat universal in the way that language is contained, Mr. Drummond. It's done that way in order to say that you or I, if we send out our notice, there's something in the file that says we really did it. And that's all that is. That in all due respect, I don't believe that's an onerous requirement on anybody. And the other part of what you spoke is more of a confirmation that, you know, one should check with the assessor. But remember now, the assessor's doing this
Councilman
mapping.
Rocket.
and a lot-
Councilman, I think we get the gist of
I
the
swear I thought you asked
situation.
me the question.
Okay,
I yield.
but I believe you
yield.
already answered it.
Got it.
Commissioner Randolph? There you go.
I'm gonna step back then now.
Step
Think-
back. All right.
This might be a question.
No, just.
Yeah,
and
it
just
is a
answer the
question,
Yeah,
and I
ready.
do have some general statements as well, but
Yes, sir.
directly to you, it's a general question. On page 1, under posted notice, this is just a typographical thing. The very fourth sentence of that paragraph, it says prepared, furnished, and placed by the Director of Planning and Development. I think that's supposed to be just R instead of ORT.
You caught it. That's a good point.
But now, generally, as it relate to the discussion, as I can appreciate it, I do express the same concerns as spoken by my fellow commissioners. One in particular, in addition to what's already been spoken about, we try, and our position and mission is to be independent but yet transparent, and we appreciate the council and the parish for really adopting and approving this commission for what we do. But item number C, it says comprehensive rezoning proposals need be posted under the requirements set out above only when within the area to be affected in general geographic terms, and need not list the specific zone proposed for all land within that area. I have a concern with that in a specific area. If there's a request for a zoning change, it has worked for me, I think it has worked for most of the public, that it gives them an opportunity to go on the internet or whatever. If this is going to be changed from an A4 to an I2 or from an H4 to an HC1, it gives them an opportunity to research that so they'll know in advance what's going on with the property abutting them. Also,
Do you want to comment on that, Mr. Randolph?
no, not yet,
Yeah,
not yet.
okay.
Also, on page 2, item 3, Mr. Drum touched upon that, about the assessor, that the abutting property owners really need to research the records in the assessor's office. But overall, I like some of the ideas and some of the efforts of this ordinance, but the majority of it, we already have a vehicle, a venue in place that's providing the public with what they need, the property owners what they need, with land and use and with zoning. So I think it needs to go back and be tweaked for the items that we need, other than just lacking what the public may not have access to.
Just in response to your question, first, specifically, I believe the language with regard to comprehensive zoning tracks some of the old language, if memory serves me right.
If I can, Chairman, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, that portion is inconsistent with state law. When we did the comprehensive rezoning of the parish, obviously you can't post every piece of property when you're doing a fifth of the parish at a time. And so that's what that is talking about. When you're doing large-scale rezoning, where you're putting out a lot more notice in the newspaper articles, multiple meetings, that type of thing, that's what that covers. That doesn't cover individual property owners coming in for rezoning. They would be subject to the notice on in the newspaper, the sign on the property, and in fact, on our website, we have 2 different versions of maps where you can look at a map of the parish and see that there's a dot near your part of the parish, and then zoom in, find out what it is. So we do have that in.
And further of that, we did not change any of that, Mr. Randolph. We carried that forth from your present ordinance. The other point that you made with regard to the savings clause, that Mr. Drummond spoke well to that issue too, is although I understand, and the observation is a good one, that language is more of a confirmation. It's not designed to say, me, you, I, or these ladies and gentlemen need to go back and double check that. It's simply that they have to confirm it with the assessor's office. Again, reminding them, because it's so important to know this, that any shortfall there doesn't render any of the effort invalid, and let it be clearly understood. In no time am I before our commission here, you ladies and gentlemen, and offering criticism to you or to the council with regard to transparency. What I'm saying today, in this modern age, this is another form of transparency, and I think it adds to the concept of good government. It's not a criticism of y'all. To the contrary, think y'all do an excellent job, more than an excellent job, because you all understand zoning better than most of these commissions throughout Louisiana. But anyway, hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Commissioner Drum.
About, I'm going back to the last statement I was making about the abutting property owners. Okay? The sentence starts off, "It shall be." That means you will do. That means that those people within 300 feet radius of that property now have to go to the assessor's office and make sure that that information is correct. Now you've put the burden on the surrounding people as well as somebody who just wants to change a piece of property to put a trailer on it. And that's putting a lot of burden on the people that does not have to be there, because now you're making them do work that shouldn't be.
Well, and I understand this, and Mr. Drummond, you're making a point worthy of discussion, and I first might ask Carlin to comment on that language and the intent. And let me say this to you, at the end of the day, after a comment, you, for example, with a point well taken, might want to say, delete that part of the section 3, but let's first hear from the lady who was part of the drafting team.
I think the intent of that language is just that it is each and every property owner's responsibility to make sure that their address is correct at the assessor's office. And that's something that you do every year when you review your assessment. And so it's what this is meant to communicate, and I'm sorry if it does not, is that it will not cause someone to not be able to get a zoning change because their neighbor's mailing address is wrong in the assessor's records. And that went to maybe it went to the previous property owner, or it went to the mortgage company instead of to their mailing address. This is particularly an issue with out-of-state owners or people who own rental properties, not your primary home. And that's what that language is meant to communicate.
And that basically, Mr. Drummond, is actually the rule of the day, or the law of the day, if you will, that you and I, as property owners, have a duty to notify the assessor if we have a change of address or anything such as that. So that language was incorporated into this ordinance just for purposes of continuity, but it is already the rule. If I move or whatever, change my address, or I buy this piece of property, you or I buy this piece of property, I got to notify the assessor. That's my duty. Remember again, the lawyer keeps telling me, remind him that this is part of an ordinance where if someone fails to do that, because you properly pointed out that example, puts a duty on someone else, it doesn't render your effort or our effort flawed. There's a savings clause, but it tracks the law of the day, sir. But it's a good observation.
Thank you. Is there any other more discussion on the commission? If not, we currently have a motion to approve, but no second. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think with the extensive discussion, I don't know if you called for comments from the public. I don't recall you
thought I
doing.
did.
Okay, I
Yeah,
apologize.
I thought I did.
I just want to make
Does
sure.
anybody have any? Yes, sorry. Please come up and state your name and your address, please.
Leo Doyle, 268 Lakeview Drive. And just my concern is, I'm here today for rezoning. Multi-dwelling home, it's labeled today, going down to a single dwelling. Do I want to go put flyers out? Do we need to put flyers out? The sign worked great. Because all my neighbors came in and they said, hey, I saw you got your sign up, and there's several people on the street have the sign up. Okay, so for this, something as simple as this, do we need? No. And why make me have to go do all this extra work where really it should be as simple as, okay, multi-dwelling to single dwelling, residential, I come in the office, I pay a fee, whatever it is to change, and it's done. It should be that simple. Now, I do agree residential to commercial, which we did have that situation take place on the street where they tried to rezone it to commercial industrial, where we're gonna have heavy machinery come down a residential area, that concerns me. So, do we want that extent of notification for that situation? Yes. Okay, I think we need to be notified. But simple things, like the majority of the people here today, I really don't think we need to complicate it any more than really what it is. Just my comment.
Thank you, sir. Is there any more discussion from the public? No.
What I might implore the commission to do is this, sensing that I might not have a favorable vote, and considering that perhaps there are some issues raised, such as what Mr. Drum raised, I might ask you to consider tabling it for the moment, and perhaps with the effort of Mr. Fontenot, we could continue to look at it.
Okay, we'll go ahead and consider that. Let's go to Commissioner Casabon.
Well, you're right. I was gonna make a motion to deny, but there are some good things in there. If you will continue to work on this, I'll make a motion to postpone.
Thank you very much.
The motion to postpone takes precedence. Commissioner Randolph.
How long?
I would offer a suggestion. If you're asking me, I would say 2 months. Oh, I thought Martha was asking me how long.
I was talking to Helen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I would suggest to at least go to the November
At least to
meeting,
November.
considering that we have the October meeting on October 2nd. I don't think we'll have enough time to make any progress.
Oh, that's true, this is the 18th. To the November.
I have a motion by Commissioner Casabon to postpone for 2 months. Commissioner Randolph, you said you seconded?
Second that amendment.
Second, Commissioner, oh, okay, that's all. All right, with that in mind, let's go ahead and vote. We're voting for postponement for 2 months.
Motion carried.
Motion carries.
Thank you again, and I would be not happy with myself if I didn't leave by reminding all of us that Deputy Justin Nails came back to work yesterday. Very happy for him. Everybody knows who he is. One of our heroes. Thank you.
Okay. Case 12, 2018-1138 ZC, a text change and ordinance to add the use of specialty food processing to the I-1 Industrial Zoning District. Staff?
Yes, we have been getting several requests to have that use added to the industrial zoning. Basically, I added the definition for your benefit. This is a use that's already in place under the HC1 Highway Commercial, HC2, and HC3. And we would like to suggest to add the use as a permanent use under the I-1 Industrial. It's definitely a use that makes a lot of sense and would fit under the I-1. It's basically for the production of food and foodstuff, wholesale distribution, where you would have maybe sometime a small bakery or small kitchen where you would have catering taking place. And as I said, we would like to recommend approval.
Okay, thank you. Is there,
Chair, we're gonna get the information up here. Could I point out a couple of things real quick?
about,
We said we were gonna pull the ordinances up and discuss them. There are 5 on the agenda,
yeah,
and we've covered 2, so there's 3 left. I thought we were gonna cover the ordinance before we covered the rest of the stuff.
no, we're covering the text changes. We only have 2 text changes left. This one and the last one on number 19.
You get 2,
We tabled a couple of them.
We're currently on 12, which is for the specialty food, and then the last one's gonna be on 19.
okay, okay.
We don't have it up here.
We don't have it on the screen. We don't know what,
To tell which
Oh.
one they're on.
Okay,
you know, we don't know what you're talking.
oh, okay, sorry.
Excuse
Sorry.
me.
Is there, okay, with that in mind.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. With that in mind, is anybody in the public who would like to speak in favor of this or against it? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. This is just to add the specialty food processing to I-1.
Now, that's a regular case.
Commissioner Casabon.
Make a motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Casabon. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Second.
I got a second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Any more information? If not, please vote.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Last text change. Case 19, 2018-1161 ZC. An ordinance amending the text of Chapter 130 St. Tammany Parish Unified Development Code to add an air curtain incinerator and non-construction wood waste to Section 135 definitions and to add a new use air curtain incinerator on Section 130-1074 I-2 Industrial District. Staff?
Once again, would like to suggest to add the two uses, the air curtain incinerator, and we also have a definition of the non-construction wood waste, basically that are, you know, the wood waste that come out of the air curtain incinerator, or, I'm sorry, or put into the air curtain incinerator. And we've done a little bit of research nationwide. This is a use that, you know, you would see as a permitted use under the industrial district. They're not necessarily all using the I-2 industrial district, but they all have similar terms. And we would like to recommend approval for to add the proposed use to the I-2 industrial district.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments for or against this text change? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Lauren.
Is Sydney, maybe you could explain a little bit exactly what is an air curtain incinerator? That's a term I'm not familiar with.
They are, it's a newer technology in incinerators where it is an extremely efficient burning of the material, and the airflow within, which is hence air curtain, the airflow within the incinerator allows the top to remain open, but maintains all smoke, debris, that type of thing inside the incinerator. And it's highly efficient. It's not the normal incinerator you'd see where you have a large amount of ash left. There's very, very little left. There's very little material, smoke, any kind of debris leaves the incinerator. It's still an industrial use, but it's not as it doesn't have the same impact that the normal incinerator would have on adjacent properties. We've seen them in very close to commercial and residential areas in other jurisdictions. And they're relatively small in size of a dumpster in most cases. In fact, we have some interest. It's interest by some tree cutting companies that want to put it on property in industrial districts so that they don't have to haul it to landfills and that kind of, it's a reduction of the materials where it's much easier to deal with and takes up less volume as opposed to cutting down a tree and hauling it to landfill and taking a valuable space. It reduces it down to a very small amount of material to be moved to those landfills.
Commissioner Randolph. Was there a motion?
I'll make a motion to
Oh,
approve.
sorry. All right. Motion to approve by Commissioner Lauren, a second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Okay. Now we get to our zoning cases. Case number 2, 2018-1079 ZC, existing zonings A3 Suburban District to Highway Commercial 3. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we postponed that one. Sorry. We postponed number 3. Let's go to number 4. 2018-1110 ZC, existing zonings A6 Multiple Family Residential District, proposed zoning A4A Single Family District, 22,800 square foot. The petitioner and owner is Michael and Mary Edwards. The location is parcel located on the north side of Lakeview Drive, being Lot 63, Eden Isle subdivision, Ward 9, District 13. Council District 13. Staff?
The objective of this zoning change request is to allow for the construction of a single-family residence, and staff would like to recommend approval of the request.
Thank you. And yes, sir? You please come up and state your name and address.
Michael Edwards, 210 Intrepid Drive in Eden Isles. Thank you for approving or recommend. But on the paperwork, we actually own two lots, 63 and 64. And I was told it would, paperwork would be amended and corrected for the meeting. I just didn't see it on mine. I just wanted to make sure that there's not a mistake about that.
Yeah, I can see that
They're
on the,
adjacent
I can
lots,
see
yeah.
that on the aerial, but not,
Right,
not actually
right.
on the plat. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Staff? So you have lot 63 and 64?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I can see lot 63 next to it. Does everybody see that on their paperwork? Staff, are you in agreement with that?
Yes, however, let me see here. I think we advertised both.
Okay.
I would like to verify that because if I'm not mistaken,
60.
yes, we advertised both. So it was the
Okay.
22,000 square feet, yeah.
Right, I
Yes.
was just looking at
Okay.
the square footage of the 60 by 190
Yes.
times 2, so
Yes.
that's appropriate, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Is there anybody, thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak for this case or against this case? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Randolph. Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Willie.
Second.
Got a second by Commissioner Willie. Any other information? Please vote.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Case 5, 2018-1114, ZC, existing zoning is A2, suburban district, proposed zoning is A3, suburban district. Acreage is 1.68. Petitioner is Luis and Charles Hargan. The owner is Susan and Joe Doss. Location, the parcel located on the east side of Holly Street, south of Cobo Avenue, being Lot 32D1, Lewisburg subdivision. Ward 4, District 4. Council District is 4. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses. Staff is not in favor of the request, considering that the site is surrounded by parcels of land zoned A2 suburban district. Note that the objective of the request is to allow for the creation of 2 parcels of land, one for the existing single-family residence and one for the existing guest house. At this time, staff would like to recommend denial of the request. Also, I would like to point out that many of you have probably received the notices or the letter of support that I have, that we received as well for this property, and I'd like to pass them around if you didn't get a chance to look at
Okay, thank you.
the notices.
Yes, sir. Your name and address, please.
Yes, Charles Hargan. I am one of the owners of the parcel, but my wife and I, my wife is in the audience, my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law, so 4 of the 6 owners are here. We have, through now this, I guess, will be the 4th generation, we have owned this property since 1885. So we have been on this property for over 100 years. We have 2 houses on the property. Originally, the property went all the way from Copel Street all the way to the lake. We have, my father-in-law had sold the property at the end of the street, which is less than an acre, and we now occupy this property, which has a guest house, and this property, which is our main house. We are asking the commission to allow us to divide the property. It is legally divided, which was for estate purposes. This is now the 4th generation. we would like to have the option to pass this property to my sister-in-law, and to have one piece of property, that which is closest to the lake, at 0.7 acres, and the guest house in the back on 1 acre. Every property around us are less than an acre. The only properties that are an acre is this property immediately behind us and those to the east of us. We are not increasing density. We're not adding structures. We're doing nothing to the property. It literally allows it to pass at our option to another family member.
To another family member.
Yeah, and that may not be the way it ends up, Mr. Chairman,
Right,
but
of course.
it's what we would like to have the option to do. We have talked to all of our neighbors that abut us, east, west, every single one is in approval. We have no opposition to speak of. And again, we're not increasing density. We're doing nothing. And if we were going to increase the structure, we would be back to you. But we're not. We're not doing one thing to the property. We ask for favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hargan. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak for this case? Anybody in the audience who would like to speak against this case? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Casabon.
Yes, because there is not going to be any physical changes to this, that they're just moving the property lines, I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Casabon. Commissioner Willie.
I'll second the motion.
I have a second by Commissioner Willie. Any more comments? If not, please vote.
Motion carried.
Yes, sir.
I would also like just want to comment that the staff was very helpful to us. We were lost in how to get this done, but they were very.
I'm sure they appreciate
helpful.
that. Thank you. Case 6, 2018-1124 ZC, existing zoning's A6. A4A is the proposed zoning. The acreage is 11,400 square foot. The petitioner and owner is Leo and Linda Doyle. Location is the parcel located on the north side of Lakeview Drive, being lot 68A and 68B, E Now subdivision. I'll say South 32 and 33, Township 9 South, Range 14 East, Section 32, Ward 9, District 13, Council District 13. Staff?
Once again, the objective of this request is to allow for the construction of a single-family residence, and we would like to recommend approval.
Is the petitioner here? Yes, sir, again. Come on in. State your name and address again, please.
Leo Doyle, 268 Lakeview Drive.
And you just want to be able to convert it from a multiple family into a single family.
Just want to build a lake house that I've been dreaming to build for many years.
Well, good for you. Good for you. Anybody in the audience would like to speak for or against this case? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Willie moves for approval. Commissioner Randolph. Got a second by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Drum.
I have been up and down this street many times prior to it being taken away by Katrina, and there were a lot of multi-family places there, and I am very glad to see that single homes are now going in there. I think it's much better that way, even though they did have to move a seafood restaurant, but it's still, you know, it's, thank you very much for putting a single in there.
If you haven't been there lately, you need to ride down. It's really changing, a lot of new homes. We're trying to make it better with the size of the homes that are going in there. So I think something that St. Tammany Parish will be very proud of.
Oh, good. Thank you. We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Willie and a second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote.
Motion carried.
Motion carries. Thank you. Case 7, 2018-1125 ZC, existing zoning is A1, proposed zoning is A2, acreage is 1 acre. Petitioner is Floyd McKee, owner is also Floyd McKee. Locations parcel located on the southwest corner of Burrell Road and Chickamauga Road, east of LA Highway 25, Section 26, Township 5 South, Range 10 East, Ward 2, District 3, Council District 3. Staff, comments?
Yes, staff feels that there's no compelling reason to recommend approval, considering that the site is surrounded by properties zoned A1 Suburban District. So note at this time, the objective of the request is to create a 1 acre parcel as shown on the attached survey. However, staff would like to recommend denial of the request.
Is the petitioner here? Please come up and state your name and address.
Floyd McKee, 15196 Brule Road. Been a lifelong resident of Ward 2. Been served on the volunteer fire department there and also on the board of commissioners for the fire department. I'd like to donate 1 acre of property on the corner by Chickamauga Road, which is a private drive, to my daughter. She has 2 young children. I'd like for them to experience the country style of life growing up. And I would appreciate your approval on that.
Oh, well, thank you. Does anybody in the audience want to speak for the approval? Sure. Come on.
Hi, my name is Mandy McKee Fisher. I'm Floyd's daughter. We want to move out by our family. It's myself, my daughter, and my son, 4.5 and 19 months. So my parents can have the ability to be close to their grandchildren, but also nobody's getting any younger. My parents are aging, and I want to have the opportunity to be close enough to them to help take care of them in their time of need when it should come.
All right, thank you. Anybody in the audience want to speak against? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Oh, I do have opposition. I'm sorry. Please come up. Sir, in opposition?
Hello, my name
Yes,
is
sir.
Tom Lowe, 15162 Brill Road.
Sorry. Go
Am
ahead.
I doing something wrong? Okay.
Okay.
I don't want to speak for everybody, but as you see all the people here, it represents a significant portion of the entire residents that, from the Highway 25 all the way into the dead end. The concern throughout the neighborhood is that increasing the density of this area, which is planned for low density, down to 1 acre, is going to change, or has the potential to change the quality of life in the neighborhood. There's nothing against the petitioner or what he's trying to accomplish, but we all know that when you change a zone, it's changed. You know, there's other people looking at developing, putting smaller properties on it, and everything we look at is, okay, we're increasing density. We all purchased and moved into this area to have this country life, the same thing they're looking for. But I'm not objecting against the people involved, just the principle of increasing the density into a smaller lot size. Again, once you change the zone, now if they move for some reason, next generation, the cat's out of the bag. People are pointing precedents that smaller lot sizes, before you know, you've got a subdivision that looks like Covington, and that's not why we're in this area. So
Thank you.
I request that you do not deny. Thank you.
Is anybody else against this? Please come up and state your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Darrell Thompson, 16441 Brule Road, Folsom, Louisiana, 70437. I am accompanied by my wife Cheryl. We own 20 acres down on the far end of Brule Road. If I can, how many people are here on the way I feel on this at the moment? We have a large contingent of people off this road that are very concerned about this slow creep. And no offense against any decisions that have been made tonight, but I witnessed it just a few moments ago when you allowed for the 1 acre change down on Lakeshore. I think it was on Lakeshore Drive, the earlier petition. Even that petitioner said, we have no intention of ever allowing this to become smaller or sold out, but I'm not saying that won't ever happen. And that is our great concern. None of us have moved out here with the intention of living in a tight neighborhood. I'm a come over. We all know what that means on this side of the lake. But I moved here for that country lifestyle. I moved here with my wife to enjoy that style of living that the North Shore has been known for, especially the northwest side of this parish. If we want a density situation, there are other areas of the parish, and we are witnessing this creep. Again, nothing against the petitioner at all. I applaud his effort for trying to keep his family together by all means. But we have to work within the framework of these property values. We're concerned about our property values and our way of life. We would ask respectfully that you would deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else against this case? For the people that first started, you can come up and have 5 minutes of rebuttal time.
Hi. Do I need to state my name again, or we're good?
Sure.
I'm Mandy McKee, 182 Del Sol West in Covington. I'm Floyd's daughter, and I do understand the concerns that we're going to change the makeup of the neighborhood. That's not our intent whatsoever. Our intent is to keep our family together. We're not going to decrease anybody's property value. That's not what we're trying to do. It is simply, it's family land. It has been family land forever. It will continue to be family land beyond me. It will probably go to my children when the time should come. I just really respectfully ask that you approve this so that I have the opportunity to care for my parents as they have cared for me when I was younger.
Thank you. We can have some rebuttal for the opposite side in case they want to state any more.
Again, Darrell Thompson, 16441 Brule Road. Again, we're back down to this discussion about precedent being set. We're back down to a discussion about the fact that once we let this happen, what stops the next neighbor or the next person from coming in and saying, I want to subdivide my land down to smaller and smaller and smaller uses. If I'm not mistaken, and I will ask staff this question, in order for the petitioner's daughter to build on that property, does not the current zoning allow them to put a second home on that size of property without having to do a subdivision of 1 acre for ownership?
May I answer the question?
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. So the whole...
Up to a certain square footage.
However, it will be
Right.
limited to 1,000 square feet.
1,000 square foot.
Okay.
That is
So not knowing what the petitioner's full intention is, there is already an option for them to add this home without having to subdivide. If we don't subdivide and we follow the existing zoning ordinance that allows them to do what they want to do, then we don't put the rest of Brule Road in danger of having someone else come in and want to subdivide down smaller and smaller pieces of property. It's that precedent, it's that erosion of what we all meant to be there for that we are concerned about. And again, respectfully request that you deny this petition.
Okay. Any more comments? I guess you still have some time left on rebuttal if you like. If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Oh, okay, sorry.
Again, Mandy McKee, 182 Del Sol West Covington. We do understand that there is the option to build a 1,000 square foot or less home. It would be myself, my husband, and our 2 children, and that's not appropriate for us. We're not trying to set a precedent. It's already been done on Brule Road, and this is just family land that we just want to continue to live there.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'll bring it back to the commission now. Commissioner Drum.
Helen, what would they have to do to be able to build a bigger piece, a bigger home without having to subdivide the property?
But unfortunately, because the A1 suburban minimum lot size is 5 acres, and they do not have 10 acres. So basically, the second residence has to be under 1,000 square feet. It has to be a guest house.
Well, can't we just build a large barn?
But the barn could be as big as they want. It's the living quarter that is limited to 1,000 square feet.
Well, we just put humans in the barn, that's all we do. It'd be a house barn.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Commissioner Casabon.
Yes. As you know, I know just about everybody out there. I've known Mr. McKee just about all my life. They owned the property across the road, had a nursery. They've been there forever. Somebody divided that land that you could come and buy that 20 acres at one point. When we did the comprehensive rezoning, Mr. Thompson felt that it was easier to do everything A1, 5 acres or larger, because people had that amount of land at that time. And then we would go back as people were giving to their children, and we would make the smaller lots. It really, to me, isn't anything about density, because we do have smaller lots across the road and around the area. This is a matter of a family member trying to give land to their children. And I really don't have a problem with the 1 acre. I make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Casabon. Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, it's our only mechanism in order to give land to our children and pass it on down, down the road. A question I do have, it's the total of almost 6 acres. We're only rezoning 1 acre to A2, and the remaining 5 acres, or roughly 5 acres, will remain A1, correct? Okay, I'll second the motion.
I have a second by Commissioner Willie, and a motion to approve by Commissioner Casabon. Please vote.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Case number 8, 2018-1129 ZC, existing zonings A4, single family, proposed zonings A5, two-family residential district. The size is 10,830 square feet. Petitioner and owner is Roger Wayne Warner. Location is parcel located on the west side of Brookter Street, south of Sycamore Street, being lots 39, 40, 41, and 42, Square 9, Beverly Hills subdivision, Section 13, Township 9 South, Range 14 East, Ward 8, District 14, Council District 14. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses compatible with the surrounding area. Staff doesn't see any compelling reason to recommend approval, considering that the site is mostly surrounded by single-family residences and manufactured homes. At this time, staff would like to recommend denial of the requested zoning change to A5, two-family residential district.
Are you the petitioner?
I represent the petitioner.
Okay, sir. Your name and address?
Matthew Crane with the Jones Purcell Law Firm, P.O. Box 1810, Covington 70434. We represent Roger Warner, who is here with us tonight, and he is both the owner and the applicant. The request before you is to rezone 4 25-foot existing lots of record in the Beverly Hills subdivision from A4 single-family residential to A5 multifamily residential. And I'd start by pointing out, if you look in your packet, there's a Google Earth map, and there's a house directly to the north and adjacent to the subject property. That is Mr. Warner's home. He's lived there for 20 years, and he would be directly impacted by the development of this subject property. And to be transparent, Mr. Warner, we passed around some pictures of two different duplexes. Mr. Warner has identified both of these duplexes. If the zoning request is approved, he intends to build one of those two duplexes on the property. He's got plans for both of them and intends to invest approximately $200,000 in this project. In the staff report, staff states that the 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses compatible with the surrounding area. I would suggest to you that the request before you is very compatible with the use of the surrounding area. First and most importantly, there are 4 duplexes that are within the Beverly Hills subdivision. This would be the 5th. And secondly, it is very common within this subdivision to have more than one unit within 100-foot, or more than one unit per 100 feet. If you look back at the Google Earth map, you look at Oak Street, which is a street directly behind the subject property. There are 5 mobile homes. Each of them are on a 25-foot lot. In that case, there's 4 units per 100 feet. Again, we're asking to have this property rezoned to A5, which would allow us to build one building with 2 units on a 100-foot wide lot. We respectfully request that the commission recommend approval. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to support this? Or anybody else like against this? If not, I'll bring it back to the commissioner. Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm familiar with this area, and I would like to go on and make a motion to approve.
We'll have to wait a little minute. We don't have a quorum yet.
Oh, she got us waiting for her again, huh?
Yeah. Sorry. Any more discussion on this? Let's bring it back to Mr. Willie. Maybe he has something else to add. Mr. Willie.
I was going to second it, but
Well, we'll have to wait.
I told Cindy to get that door unlocked.
Can I ask a question?
Commissioner Lauren, you have the floor.
In the staff comments, it says it's part of Beverly Hills subdivision. I'm assuming from the comments you made earlier that there aren't any protective covenants that deal with,
2-family residence?
yeah,
No, there aren't.
okay. Thank you.
I'd appreciate it if the commission would go ahead and make a motion to approve again. A motion to approve by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Willie.
second.
A second by Commissioner Willie. Any more discussion? If not, please vote.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Case number 9, 2018-1133 ZC. Existing zoning is A1 Suburban District and Rural Overlay. Proposed zoning is A2 Suburban District and Rural Overlay. The acreage is 2 acres. Petitioner and owner is Fred and Rochelle Hinkle. Location parcel located at the southwest corner of $1 Million Road and Southern Drive, Section 33, Township 5 South, Range 11 East, Ward 2, District 2, Council District 2. Staff comments?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential and agricultural uses. Staff doesn't have any compelling reason to recommend approval. We're, this is a request, yes, to go to A2 Suburban. So at this time, staff doesn't have any compelling reason to recommend approval of the request, considering that the site is surrounded by large parcels of land zone A1 Suburban District on the south, east, and west sides. And at this time, staff would like to recommend denial.
Okay. Is the petitioner here for this? Please come up and state your name and address, please.
My name's Fred Hinkle. Address is 78449 Southern Drive, Covington, 70435.
And Mr. Hinkle, why do you want to change it from A1 to A2?
We bought this 2 acres of property in 1991. It had a house on it, and we've been using it for rental property for the last 25 years. Getting a little older, got some health issues. We want to sell the house with 1 acre of property. We want to keep the 2nd acre wooded like it is right now. You know, it's not for development, it's to stay wooded. It adjoins our property where we live. We had purchased 3 acres earlier, 5 years earlier. So you just want to keep that property the way it is. Nothing's going to change except the owner on that 1 acre.
And your house is in the rear?
Yes, it's in the rear.
Okay, and the house that you intend on subdividing is in the front, of course?
Correct.
Right on $1 Million Road?
Right.
And you'll still have access to the home in the rear?
Yes.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak for this case? Anybody would like to speak against this case? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Casabon.
Yes, they're right. It's, nothing will absolutely change. Like I said, it's been rental property. It's on the $1 million. And the councilman in this area, he really called me just to let me know he's their neighbor all around here, that he does not have any problem with this. So I make a motion to approve.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Casabon. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Randolph. Any more conversation? If not, please vote.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We did case 10. We postponed case 11. We did case 12. Case 13, 2018-1140, ZC, existing zonings A6, multiple family residential district. Proposed zonings A4A, single family residential district. Size is 11,400 square foot. The petitioner and owner is Alfred L. and Laura L. Pearson. Locations, parcel located on the north side of Lakeview Drive, being lot 69 Eden Isle subdivision, section 32 and 33, township 9 South, range 14 East, Ward 9, District 13, Council District 13. Staff?
The objective of this request is to allow for the construction of a single-family residence, and staff would like to recommend approval of the request.
Is the petitioner here? I think we had a case just like this.
Same story, his
Yep.
wife and mine are best friends.
And your name, I'm sorry, your name
I'm
and...
sorry, Alfred Pearson,
Okay, Alfred. And your current address?
270 Lakeview Drive, Slidell.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody in the audience want to speak for this case? Anybody want to speak against this case? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Randolph.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Willie.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Willie. Any more discussion? If not, please vote.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Case 14, 2018-1145 ZC. Existing zoning is A1A, Suburban District. Proposed zoning is A1A, Suburban District with a rural overlay. It's 23.48 acres. The petitioner and owner is Joshua Beaver and Ray Ann Gauthier. And the location, parcel located on the west side of LA Highway 1077 across from Tintilla Ranch Road, Section 20, Township 6 South, Range 10 East, Ward 1, District 3, Council District 3. Staff, your comments?
Staff doesn't have any objection to the request, considering the size of the property, 23.48 acres, and the rural character of the area. Note that the objective of the request is to allow for the construction of an agricultural building on a property. At this time, staff would like to recommend approval of the request.
Okay. Petitioner here? Please come up and state your name and address, please.
My name is Terry Beaver. I live at 15311 Henderson Bayou Road in Prairieville. This particular acreage and all was bought by my son. He's going to build a house on it, and I'm going to build a house on it, and he wants to build a big building in the back of his place. And I just want to put a building on my place, and I'd like to do it before I build the house, so I can have a place to store stuff, and that's what this is all about.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is anybody in the audience who would like to speak for this case or against this case? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Commissioner Lauren.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Lauren. Any more discussion? If not, please vote.
Ms. Casborn. She hasn't voted.
Do we all vote? Yeah, we had to have.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Case 15, 2018-1150 ZC, existing zoning is A4, single-family residential district. Proposed zoning is I2, industrial district. Size is 20,000 square foot. The petitioner and owner is Russell and Michelle Volati. Location is parcel located on the north side of South Street, east of Hickory Street, being Lot 6, Slidell Manor subdivision, 411 South Street, Slidell, Section 37, Township 8 South, Range 14 East, Ward 9, District 11, Council District 11. Staff, your comments?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the site to be developed with commercial uses compatible with the surrounding area. Staff is not completely opposed to the requested zoning change, considering that the site is currently developed with an office warehouse and is abutting I-3 heavy industrial district on the west side. However, staff feels that an I-1 industrial zoning district would be more appropriate for the site, considering the proximity of the existing residences, mainly along Hickory Street. So at this time, staff would like to recommend denial of the request to I-2 industrial district.
Ma'am, are you the petitioner?
Yes, sir. My name is Michelle Bolott, and I'm here to request I-2 zoning for my property. We bought it in 2009. I think it was a comprehensive overlay then for I-zoning on that street. We are next to Air Gas, which is I-3 zoned currently. We have been operating, I think, as I-2 since 2009. We built our commercial property on that lot, so we would just like to have the zoning match the record of what we currently operate.
Okay. Staff, is it working under I-2 zoning now, or can it be I-1 and still continue to work?
I'm not exactly sure, maybe the petitioner can confirm, what is the use of the building at this time?
We are record storage and management, document shredding, shredding of paper, baling, paper and hard drive shredding. We do have 18-wheelers coming in and out. I'm not sure exactly where it lies, but we would like to request I-2.
Maybe the shredding, it's more intensive than the I-1 would require, but.
Okay. With that being said, is there anybody in the audience for this case or against this case? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Drum, your comments.
Yeah, I went and looked at this, and you have a hall just down the street where they have banquets, weddings, things like that. And they have that building right next to them, which is the air gas. And right next to, on the other side of them, is some guy who builds very noisy automobiles.
He is the noisiest neighbor on the block.
Okay, and so what they have is very subdued, considering the noise that this gentleman puts out. So I make a motion that this be approved.
Okay. A motion to approve the I-2 by Commissioner Drum. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Randolph. Any more discussion? If not, please vote.
Thank you.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Case 16, 2018-1151 ZC, existing zoning is Highway Commercial 1, Highway Commercial 2, and A4A, Single Family Residential District. Proposed zoning is Highway Commercial 2A, Highway Commercial District. Acreage is 4.461. Petitioner is Paul Marone. Owner is B&B Mini Storage, Matthew P. Bennett. Location is parcel located on the east side of US Highway 190, south of Harrison Avenue, Section 10 and 48, Township 7 South, Range 11 East, Ward 3, District 2, Council District 2. Staff, your comments.
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with commercial uses of several levels or forms. The site is currently developed with a self-storage units. The objective of the request is to allow for the existing use to conform to the appropriate zoning district. At this time, staff would like to recommend approval of the HC2A zoning change.
Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Paul Marone on behalf of BB Mini Storage Incorporated and the Bennett Brothers. This tract, which is 4.461 acres along the east side of Highway 190, just south of Harrison Avenue, as Ms. Lambert noted, it is the current location of one of the Liberty Mini Storage facilities. That facility has been in place for many years. And apparently maybe back in the comprehensive rezoning done in 2009 and 2010, when this stretch was rezoned, it was rezoned away from what the use was. And if you look at your map, you'll see that you have HC2 along the highway, some HC1, I believe, and then even some residential zoning in the rear. This issue was discovered when my clients went in to pull a building permit to upgrade the facility and put an indoor climate-controlled facility within the property, much like we did on the Highway 190 service road near Mandeville. So as a result of finding that out, it led to our petition that is before you now. So we would respectfully request your approval to HC2A to bring the zoning into compliance and into compatibility with the use that's been there for many years. I'd also point out that if you look at the surrounding zoning in this area, HC2A is not uncommon. In fact, you have a lot of HC3 on the other side of Highway 190 and in and around this vicinity. So HC2A would be compatible and would fit in well with our surrounding properties. We'd respectfully request your approval of the HC2A, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners might have.
Thank you. Does anybody in the public would like to speak in favor of this case? Or against this case? If not, I'll bring it back to the commissioner. Commissioner Lauren?
Yes, thank you. During the comprehensive rezoning, unfortunately, there were several instances like this one where the proposed rezoning in theory was applied and it was counter to what was actually in place. And we have corrected many of those in the last 4 or 5 years. This is one more. I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Lauren. Commissioner Casabon?
I'll second that motion.
I have a second by Commissioner Casabon. Any more comments? If not, please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Case number 2018-1152ZC, existing zoning is Highway Commercial 2. Proposed zoning is A4A, single-family residential district. Acreage is 27.14 acres. Petitioner is H&I Investments LLC, Robert Hurley. The owner is Abita Springs Land LLC, Robert Kaplan. The location is parcel located on the south side of Hoffman Road, east of Louisiana Highway 59, west of the Tammany Trace, Section 7, Township 7 South, Range 12 East, Ward 4, District 5, Council District 5. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan call for the area to be developed with residential uses that are compatible and similar or greater in density than the existing surrounding uses. Prior to the comprehensive rezoning, the 27.14 acre site was zoned suburban agricultural. As part of the comprehensive rezoning, staff recommended that the area between Highway 59 and the Tammany Trace, more particularly south of Hoffman Road to where the Tammany Trace crosses Highway 59, to be rezoned to HC2 Highway Commercial. The recommendation was also approved by the council. In order to remain consistent with its original recommendation, staff feels that the commercial zoning should be preserved in the area to allow for development of future retail, office, and service uses along Highway 59. At this time, staff would like to recommend that the request for A4A be denied.
Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Members of the commission, Paul Marone, again, this time on behalf of H&I Investments LLC, Mr. Intravi and Mr. Hurley. This 27.14 acre tract, as Ms. Lambert noted, is located along Hoffman Road on the east side of Highway 59. The entirety of this tract is currently zoned HC2 Highway Commercial, and a portion of the tract actually abuts the Tammany Trace. We're proposing to downzone the parcel from the HC2 Highway Commercial to A4A Single Family Residential. While the staff has recommended denial, we would respectfully disagree with that recommendation. And for the reasons that I'll explain in a bit more detail, I would suggest to you that our proposed use is really more compatible with the area while still accomplishing much of what I think the staff is looking for in this particular location. As Ms. Lambert noted, the staff recommendation is based in large part because the property is currently zoned HC2 Highway Commercial, and there is the belief that we need to make sure that there is in the inventory HC2 Highway Commercial in this area so that certain services that will be needed can be brought to the area. Well, I don't disagree with that, and my client doesn't disagree with that. Where we differ from staff is the size and intensity of the HC2 that's needed. I would suggest to you that HC2 is needed in this area for the services that are required for the residents. However, 27.14 acres is more than is necessary. For reference, those of you who travel the west side of St. Tammany Parish, you will notice that at the intersection of Highway 1077 and Highway 1085, next to Hannon High School, there's a new development going in that has a Rouse's, a strip center, and 2 out parcels. That parcel of ground is 8.1 acres. If we go down Highway 190, we're all familiar with the Home Depot, the Rouse's, the Outback, the old Pier 1 building, and the 2 additional out parcels there. That entire tract is 21.6 acres. If we go to Highway 21, the Winn-Dixie, the 5 out parcels from that development and all of the property along Highway 21 and the frontage in that area is 14.5 acres. My point here is that 27.14 acres is a lot of HC2. It's a lot of HC2. And while the area needs HC2, I don't think they need the amount of HC2 that would bring a Walmart and a Home Depot to this particular location. I would also point out that even if you were to rezone this tract, there is still over 12 acres out of this particular mother parcel, if you will, that will remain HC2. That doesn't take into account the additional HC2 that's to our north, to our south, and to our west. So there's ample opportunity for HC2 zoning to provide for the uses that will be needed in this area as far as future retail, office, and service. I've spoken to you about why the HC2A is not needed with regards to this 27.14 acres. I'd also like to point out to you why I think the A4A is appropriate. First, the staff comments note that the 2025 land use plan calls for residential uses similar or greater in density to the surrounding uses. That's exactly what we're proposing. The residential along the trace, abutting the trace, I would submit to you is better than HC2 abutting the trace in this location. I would also submit that if you look to the east of our property, you'll see Autumn Wind subdivision. I would submit that the A4 in Autumn Wind, stepping down to the A4A of this property provides a good step down, a transition, and a buffer to the HC2 that will be along the highway. Finally, if you were to look across Hoffman Road on your zoning map, you would see that the property is zoned A3. That is a little bit misleading because the area on the north side of Hoffman Road is in fact an old subdivision of record called Abita Springs Terrace. So while the zoning is A3, the lots are already established. The lots are 30 feet wide. So with the contiguous lot rule, you have to combine those two. So the development of the parcels on the east side of Hoffman Road in this location are 60-foot lots, which is compatible with what we have and what we're proposing in this instance. So again, in conclusion, the 27.14 acres I would submit to you is better off and more compatible in a residential zone. There is still ample HC2 commercial in the area for the retail, the services, and other uses that are needed to support the population in this area. But we would respectfully suggest to you that rezoning this tract would provide the appropriate step down, the appropriate buffers, and be more compatible with what's around it than the existing HC2 commercial. And we'd respectfully request your approval this evening.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience would like to speak for this case? Anybody in the audience would like to speak against? Thank you. Please state your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Greg Kraus. I live in 321 Autumn Wind Lane. I've been a resident of Autumn Wind for about 6 years. I'm the vice president of the Civic Association. Knowing that 27 acres zoned for HC commercial is, a big chunk of land, and as far as we're concerned, if the land's going to be developed, we would prefer to see houses of the quality that they're looking to build versus large industrial, a Walmart or Home Depot be brought in there. And as far as I'm concerned, and several of my other neighbors that we've discussed, if the land's going to be developed, this is the direction that we would like to see it become developed into.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Suzanne Bennett, and I live at 22469 Hoffman Road. And, I understand what Mr. Marone is saying, but what I'm concerned about is the A4A zoning, because that, I believe, would allow 6 houses per acre. And if you multiply that times 27, that's probably about 100, at least 60 for 10. And Hoffman Road, you can't get out of Hoffman Road now. So I'm thinking that might be a little too dense. I don't know if the developer would have any plans to correct the situation getting out on the highway, but to add 120 more homes on that little narrow road would be a little difficult, I believe. So we're opposed. But we would like something reasonable, and the commercial would be fine if it stayed commercial, but we just don't want so many houses in one area to cause it traffic or safety concerns.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience? No. Now, this is for or against, because initially, for, okay.
Okay. My name is A.J. Lazaro. I live at 730 Summer Lane in Autumn Wind. I've been a resident there for about 13 years. My daughter lives in there, my son lives in there, my sister-in-law lives in there, so we have a vested interest in this. As Mr. Maroney probably knows, there were issues when Autumn Wind was developed. Any of you that's been on the commission for a long time. My only concern would be the drainage and traffic, but I understand from the developer that there's going to be studies made and that'll be satisfied. But rather than, and I think there's some misunderstandings here, because I believe that the 27 acres, part of that's going to be commercial, and that there's only a proposed, I think, 80 home sites or something to that effect going in there, not 120 or 130. I would rather see that residential, pretty comparable to what we have in Autumn Wind, rather than seeing 27 acres developed into commercial, because traffic right now between Robert Road and Hoffman, trying to get out of there in the afternoon or in the morning or something like that is horrendous. And if you had commercial, some type of big box office, something like that there, it would be horrendous. So I think, most of the people in Autumn Wind would welcome a subdivision of that type, as long as the developer does what he says he's going to do. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any more?
Hi, my name is Dawn Lynch, and I'm at 431 Autumn Wind Lane. We just actually recently moved there in November. I do know one of the developers, and I am absolutely for him developing this property. However, I do have some concerns. Same thing, the density, the drainage. I would like to see it A4 instead of A4A, being 4 houses allowed per acre instead of 6. I have 3 young children, and this is the reason that we moved into Autumn Wind. We have lots of friends in there. A lot of our children's friends are in there. And 2 things, getting out on Hoffman Road or onto the highway from Hoffman Road is a lot. But also, my bigger concern is the traffic, people trying to go through Autumn Wind to get to Robert Road. We already have cars that come through there that are speeding. And my concern is if they have one entrance in and out from Hoffman Road, are all these other cars coming down Hoffman Road going to come through our subdivision and are speeding through our subdivision when we have all these kids outside? Again, I am for the developer. However, I would like to see it A4 instead of A4A.
Thank you. Any more comments? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
I don't know, I
Oh,
thought
I'm
Paul was
sorry,
gonna
I'm sorry.
rebut.
Paul, I'm
Few
sorry.
rebuttal points?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Davis?
Yeah, Paul, go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
rebuttal.
keep it brief. With regards to the traffic and drainage, as the commission knows, at the appropriate time in the planning process, we'll have to do a detailed traffic study, which will look at that intersection. If turning lanes are required, we'll be responsible for those. Likewise, with the drainage, a detailed hydrological study will have to take place to make sure that we capture our water, detain our water, and that we meter it out. We have been made aware of the concerns with regards to the drainage, so we have done some preliminary work there, and we are confident that our water is not going to be able to flow to our east, to Autumn Wind, that we will not have any effect on them. We're going to retain our water, and we're going to take it out to the south and then to Highway 59. With regards to the density, while the A4A does technically allow 6 units per acre, which is where they're getting their numbers, from a practical standpoint, and we've already laid this out as part of our pro forma to see if the project will work, you can't get anywhere near that. The gentleman mentioned that he was under the impression that we were about 80 lots is the max, and that's exactly correct. You're really, even at A4A, after you put in your infrastructure and you put your retention in, you're butting at about 3 units an acre. So we're at about the 80 lots that were mentioned. It is not possible to get to the 127 by the pure math on this tract and with a straight A4A development. I would also submit to you that, as I said, we are cognizant about the traffic and drainage, but I would remind you that at this zoning stage, we're talking about A4A versus HC2. And if I were to come to you at a planning meeting and tell you that I've got 27 acres of HC2, I can tell you that my traffic and my drainage are going to be much more of a challenge, much more of a challenge than with an A4A single-family residential development. So we would respectfully suggest to you that the A4A fits, the A4A is appropriate, and in many respects is better than what's there now as far as the zoning goes, and we would respectfully request your approval this evening.
Thank you. We have some rebuttal time, 5 minutes of rebuttal time if anyone would like to come up and speak some more. If not, okay. I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Well, the last 2 speakers kind of answered my question. I was going to ask the difference between A4 and A4A, and it's 6 versus 4, I guess. So, and then what Paul explained. I'm going to move for approval.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Willie. Commissioner Loring.
For once, I turned my mic on.
Thank you.
Paul, could I ask a question real quick? Looking at the drawing or the Google map type drawing we've got, are we talking about the whole thing being zoned to A4A? Everything within the dotted lines?
If you, yes, if you look at the Google map, the lines are a little, they're not very clear, but yes, within that largely triangle-shaped area.
Well, the reason I ask is one of the ladies said something about part of it was gonna be commercial.
No, none of what we're proposing to rezone will be commercial. The area along the highway will remain HC2 commercial, along Highway 59.
Okay, along 59, but not along Hoffman.
That's correct. The area of our property will be
Okay, thank you.
residential.
Makes sense.
I have a Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
I'll second the motion.
I have a second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. And who made the motion to approve? Commissioner Willie. Commissioner Willie made a motion to approve. Any more comments? If not, please vote.
Motion passed.
Okay. Let's see. Case 18, 2018, 1153 ZZ. Existing zoning is A5, two-family residential district, and MD1 medical residential district. Proposed zoning is A1A, suburban district. Time's up. Acreage is 3.85 acres. The petitioner is Rita Stevens and Lexi Melleran. Owners the same. Locations parcel located on the south side of Hickory Street, west of Colonial Court, being 162 Hickory Street, Covington, Section 27, Township 7 South, Range 11 East, Ward 4, District 5. Staff?
Staff doesn't have any objection to the request, considering that the objective is to bring the existing single-family residence in compliance with the appropriate zoning district, and we would like to recommend approval of the request for an A1A suburban district.
Thank you. There's a petitioner here. Please come up and state your name and address, please.
Mary Thompson, 162 Hickory Street, and I'm here for my mother and my aunt who own the property. And as Ms. Lambert said, we just want to have it rezoned back to residential because our house is on that property, and right now it's zoned MD1 where the house is located. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody in the audience want to speak for this case or against this case? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Commissioner Randolph. Second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote.
Motion carried.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yeah.
No, did we already, no, let's go, we have it, no old business, any new business? Any new business? I believe we do have new business. I believe next zoning commission meeting, we're gonna have to pick a new, chair.
Yes, it will be on the agenda.
Will that be
We'll
on the
have
agenda?
election of officers at the next meeting.
Okay,
That's correct.
thank you. Okay, motion to adjourn? Thank you. That wasn't as bad as I thought. I thought it was gonna be.